Welcome back. Not exactly the video I really intended on making, but here we are. If you notice, I am in just a t-shirt and my glasses. Today was a work from the rig day. We knew we were going to get some severe weather today, so I made a point to kind of hang out here. But as you can see, well, he changed it from the radar. So on my TV right now is actually the YouTube channel Ryan Hall Y'all. He's a meteorologist. I found he's super accurate. And so we kind of use him when there's severe air in our area, when there's severe weather in our area. So we will also check regular off-air antennas. Yeah, there you go. So we're currently in Fort Worth, Texas, like we normally are. And we are expecting all kinds of pretty severe weather today. So what are we doing to prepare for it? Because right before we left the house, we actually had a tornado issue. The rig was there. We had purchased the rig, but we hadn't moved into it full time yet. And so I quickly kind of shot a mid-random week video about severe weather safety just in general. Well, almost exactly a year later, spring storms in Texas have sprung up. And if you're from North Texas, you know what I'm talking about. Now that we live full-time in our Grand Design Solitude 390 RK, what are we going to do? Well, this is the first real extreme weather that we've kind of had to encounter. We still had the house when we wrapped up the spring, and then we moved into it in April. And we got lucky. We never really had anything come through, minus some rain. So I'm going to take you through here in just a minute some preparations that I've done to the rig to get it ready for storms. And there's some things you really just can't do. So let's kick it off by talking about what's really going to happen in these storms today, or what's starting to happen. Okay, this part's not all that exciting. That's a radar. That's Denton. We're actually down here somewhere off the radar at the moment, but what they're calling for this storm system is actually hail, wind, and tornadoes. It's not going to be long-lasting. It's one of those things that it's going to have a couple of supercells pop up, and then maybe a band of showers come through, and that's really about it. Now, that does not necessarily mean that they can't be damaging. They're actually, those are the worst kinds of storms, is because they can be damaging. So, right out of the gates, I cleaned today. Of course I cleaned. So what that means for us is I dumped tanks. I did everything. In retrospect, I wish I hadn't, because water in the tanks weighs your RV down. We are expecting high winds. So one thing that we're going to go do real fast is I'm going to fill our freshwater tank. We have about 100-gallon freshwater capacity, and at 8 pounds, roughly a gallon, that's around 800 pounds of extra weight. Weight holds things down. I know, because I'm a big guy, I am more stable than lighter people. Because that tornado can't get me, but Lauren, she better anchor to me. All right, so I'm going to pre-apologize. It's very windy already outside. In our wet bay, we have a Nautilus system, black tank flush, regular water. We're hooked up on city water at the moment. I do have these Save a Drip just kind of monitors. It just gives me an idea how much I've put in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn over to the power tank fill, which is that, and we're going to let it fill up. So I'm going to take that all the way up to completely full, because that's 800 pounds of weight that will just help us stay more stable, just in case. All right, let's talk about any other preparations you might need to make for your outside area. I've already done some of this. I wasn't really planning on shooting a video, but considering how severe they're getting, I figured this would be a good opportunity to talk about severe weather coming into spring, especially if you're going to be through the central US area, kind of tornado alley-esque. So one thing, you notice how my truck's parked right now in front of the rig. Typically that's turned around. Well, directly, so that way is west and that way is north. So a lot of the storms are going to come from this way. Now, I pulled in forward so that I minimize the amount of body that is actually in front of the rig. Yes, I could possibly break my back window out, but I would also break my windshield too. So, you know, just position where you are. We're really lucky that our nose is actually facing into the storm. If you were going to be in a severe enough storm with high winds, one thing you could do is point your nose into the direction the wind's going to be coming, or the estimated direction it's going to be coming. Obviously, we don't know 100% know that, but most storms for us in this time of the year come from the northwest. We are actually pointed towards the northwest, so that works out for us. This is really dirty. It's been windy and dusty and all kinds of stuff here lately, but another thing you could also do is if you were expecting super severe weather, you could actually hook up. So, you know, with a fifth wheel or a travel trailer, you could essentially hook up your truck to your rig and just leave it that way, and help anchor it down. So if you were going to be potentially in like a hurricane or something along those lines, that might be the proper and correct thing to do. Now, in a tornado situation, that's such more fast moving and kind of spontaneous, and you have an idea of what's coming, but you have no idea where, when, any of those things. So I'm electing to stay unhooked simply because I want to be able to get out quickly if I have to. All right, I'm actually standing behind the camera because I want to show you what you don't see anymore. So typically we'd have a mat out here. That's the dog water. We have our little kind of torch things that help kind of keep bugs away from the door. And then normally over there somewhere by the entrance to the site, you're going to have our little garden flag and little fake flame lighty thing, torch deal. If you notice, that's gone. It moves around a lot in the wind and I don't want it to tear, so I actually just picked it up and put it inside. Picked the mat up. I'm going to leave the dog water out because it is actually pretty heavy, and it's not the end of the world if that goes away. You do notice we have a mat here. That mat is pretty down, even on the gravel. I may pick it up and just kind of throw it underneath the rig or potentially put it somewhere else. Maybe I'll just throw it in there, but I'm going to wait as long as possible on that because that's how we kind of wipe all of the dust and dirt and stuff off of our feet. All right, you're going to notice my awning right there. It's in. When you know that you're going to be getting this type of severe weather, make sure and leave your awning in. A lot of people I've seen just leave their awning out and then leave. Well, especially this time of the year in Texas, you don't know if it's going to get bad or not. So please, please, please leave your awning in. If it's going to be enough wind and you had slide toppers on your slides, I'd actually consider disconnecting them if that's possible. I know some you can, some you can't, but I would consider disconnecting them. But awning will stay in no matter what, because you could get wind gusts in these strong Texas storms that pop up like nothing, and they are calling for some straight lane winds of up to 75 miles an hour. That will shake this rig and it will rip off an awning like that. Well, hello, Bailey. Are you scared of the storm? No, you're just relaxing, aren't you? Always a good pup. Always a good pup. You know, it's funny, some of our dogs have been very weather sensitive. Bailey is not, but Mishka, even though she's laying down now, you doing okay, girl? Mishka's not the biggest fan of weather, so she's already starting to get a little anxious. Okay, let's talk about a few more things while we continue to fill that water up. Our livelihoods is on my and Lauren's computers, so something when we get weather like this we do is we kind of make a go bag. It's not a go bag in the traditional sense, but it's things that we would be very upset if were damaged or lost. We don't have just a whole lot in the rig that we couldn't replace. This is all things besides ourselves, the dogs. I can replace my computer, but I would also lose a lot of footage, videos, that kind of stuff. So for the livelihood of the channel, my laptop becomes one of those things. And not that we have to have the camera, but I like to have the camera with because this is what we do. We document things. So we will document through pretty much anything. Other than that, we keep a couple of very important, just kind of expandable file folders hidden on the rig. That is just pertinent information. All of our very important documents are sealed in a lockbox in a bank. Everything else that's on board that would just make our lives a lot easier, like large purchase agreements, that kind of stuff. We would put that in the bag just in case, because if something's going to get damaged, we'd rather it not be that. So, also, you have to assume you're going to lose power. So something Lauren and I do since we got the solar set up and the batteries, shout out to Todd Henson from Big Beard Batteries, that thing has been amazing. I will turn off the power sometimes during the day to conserve our consumption from the park simply because we can. Because we have weather today, I did not do that. I actually considered doing it, but I didn't, simply because I want everything to stay nice and topped off. That way, if there is an issue and we do lose power, we still have the ability to turn the air conditioners on if it gets cold, the heaters, and be able to use the rig self-sufficient. So that's also another win that I, at the time, did not think about when installing all these batteries, that if we were to lose power for any reason because of severe weather, that we would be, I mean, assuming that nothing actually happened in the storms, we would be okay as far as power consumption use. Plus, I also made sure that our generator, we have an off-board Champion 4500. If you're interested, you can check out our Amazon store, which is linked in the description, for all the things we use. But I have that fueled up as well, plus it can run on propane, so if push came to shove, I can utilize that as well. So, what's next, Ryan? I don't really know. So, one of the big things you also want to make sure you have is knowledge. Make sure you follow, if you have a Twitter account, make sure you follow the area's National Weather Service. For us, that's FTW National Weather Service, or Fort Worth National Weather Service. They're going to give you live up-to-minute stuff via Twitter. We also, I like Ryan Hall, but at some point I might lose internet. And so I know, like, I've already got my TV scanned, so I know that I can pop over to over-air channels and pick up, so I know I can pop over to an over-air channel and then pick up that, pick up like a local channel for weather updates and those types of things. So, yeah, we should probably go check the water, make sure we're not just, you know, going over the spill valve constantly. Actually, before I go out there, so the pups are just kind of chilling, but something we've always had is this cabinet right here by our door. It has been our dog, flashlight, everything kind of zone. So something that we'll do is we'll make sure that we have batteries and flashlights. The LED lamps are loaded up, and they just thought we're going outside. We're not. You're fine. But their collars and leashes are here. So that way, if we do have to go to shelter, which we're going to talk about in a second, that it can be done very, very quickly. In fact, now's a good time. So one of the things that we do here in Texas, because we're so used to tornadic activity, that kind of stuff, is always know where you go for shelter. We live in a mobile home. I know it's not a mobile home, it's an RV, but it's essentially the same thing. So in the event of a tornado, this is not going to protect you. So you have to know where to go. For us, it's actually the laundry room / clubhouse here at the RV park. It has plumbing all the way down, and that is the tornado shelter. So if we hear of a tornado watch and the sirens start to go off, or we get the alerts on our phones, thanks to iPhones and that fun, annoying sound, we'll actually grab the pups. For us, it's a bit of a drive, so we'll probably throw them in the truck and drive down there real quick, and then just hang out in there until the storm passes, because that will allow us to have more safety. Again, if the rig is destroyed but we're in there, we have the things that matter most. Prioritize yourself, your animals, your families, whoever that is. Everything else in this is insured. It can be replaced. Even though you don't want it to be replaced, it can be replaced. Things you also have to consider is your animals. Whether it's a severe storm situation or just going to rain for a few days, you know, they need an absolute ton of exercise, typically. And so we always make sure to come down and, you know, bring them down, let them walk around, let them play a little bit, let them use the restroom, so they're good and tired before a storm gets here. We're getting pretty close to this thing kind of starting to roll through, so I took them on a figure 8 walk. We call it the figure 8 because that's kind of how the park's laid out, a couple of different times now. And now we're at the dog park letting them get their energy out or just wander around before the storms hit. Okay, I'm down here on the ground to simply talk about our EPO surge protector. We use the Power Watchdog by Hughes Auto Transformers. In the event of an electrical storm, you can actually have electrical damage. So having a guard between the electricity and your rig, very, very good thing. So if you don't have one of those, please, please, please get something. We like that one. Also, all the things we're talking about today, if you have any interest in them, we've linked them on our Amazon store, and that link is down below. So another thing I just thought of in preparation, I'm not telling you to turn your propane off, but I'm down to 1 bottle and I know which one it is. So if we do decide to leave for shelter, one of the last things I'll do on my way out is I'll turn the propane off. That way, if the rig is damaged for any reason, we don't have to worry about that. I intentionally left the 1 propane bottle open that's by the door. So it's on the camp side of the RV so that I don't have to run all the way around the rig to get into the truck and do all of that. It's just right there. Just turn it off and move on. So yeah, that's turn your propane off. That would probably help, especially if something were to happen, the rig were to tip on its side. You don't have to worry about a propane leak of any kind either. Okay, well, I was gonna film a quick little time lapse, but the wind just kicked up to like 70 miles an hour or so, so I'm gonna go back inside. That does not look fun, by the way. So let me just repeat, if you can even hear me over the wind, do not do what I'm doing right now. I'm standing outside and you can hear the sirens. So it's because, not because of tornado, but because of straight line winds. They're calling for 70 to 80 miles an hour worth of straight line winds. So, Texas in the spring. It's a little rough. They may have actually turned the sirens off. Our neighbors are actually going to the shelter. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting close just in case. Well, that was fun. It's raining, but that initial gust of wind came through, and it pounded pretty hard. It actually knocked the power out here. So earlier I talked about the benefits of having an external generator, an onboard generator, for us a battery and lithium system. Obviously a solar system right now, the solar's not going to do any good, it's dark. But one thing that I didn't think about is when the power dropped, we had all 3 ACs on, so it overloaded the inverters. Now, we have Victron inverters, which means they're smart inverters, and the smart shunt all communicated properly. And what happened was it threw some alarms, but it turned them off instead of allowing them to overload. So they turned off, and then they tried to kick back on a couple of times, and then the shore power came back on. So we've kind of done some things now to decrease our load. So if it does turn off again, the power goes out again, the transition will be a little cleaner instead of doing all that. And wow, you can hear the wind. Okay, so because of the weather, we've lost power completely. And I say that, you see lights on. We haven't lost power. So what can I say? Todd, you're saving lives. But thanks to the Big Beard batteries, the Victron inverter, and the whole system that we installed through the NRVTA, everything's normal-ish. We have our center AC on. Well, it's not on at the moment, but the ability for it to work. But we're just running off our battery power, so it's like we're boondocking for a minute, which is fine. So, and remember how I said we're on a kind of well system here, like a commercial well system at this RV park? It's loud, it's raining really hard. So if we lose power, then the pumps won't turn on for that. So they'll keep pressure for a little while, but eventually that'll happen too. So not only did the water I put on earlier serve as a, well, big paperweight for our rig, it also, just in case we need to take a shower or something, we can actually use that water now if the power stays off for an extended period of time and we don't have a city connection anymore. So.
Right there, and we continue to track these storms to the east. We're going to take a very short commercial break. We'll be back in just.
So we're in this area over here, so we're in the thick of it right now. All right, well, all in all, we did okay throughout the night. I got a little bit of GoPro footage. It got very humid in here as soon as the rain started in. But torrential downpours for quite some time. The wind was ridiculous, as expected. But all in all, the rig did really, really well. So I actually walked outside to start getting a time lapse, and you might see a little bit of footage from out there with the big camera. And almost immediately, that front came through and about blew me over. So, and that's saying something because I'm weighted down pretty good. As far as anything we would have really done differently, not so much, to be completely honest with you. I don't know that we would have necessarily done too much differently. Maybe not dump the tanks. I said that earlier. Don't dump the tanks. I did because I wasn't thinking. And so I had kind of cleaned up and just did a reset yesterday. But I did put that fresh water on. We did lose power for about an hour or so, which wasn't bad. But had we had lost power long term, given that the RV park we're in, that water would have come in handy. Plus, we would have had used the batteries and generators. So if you're interested in a battery setup like we do, make sure and go check out those videos. I'll link them down below and in the little cardie up here. Also, reach out to Todd Henson, the guy from the NRVTA, the Beard. Big Beard batteries. man, those things have been lifesavers, not just for boondocking and harvest host stays and cracker docking stays and all that, but in an emergency situation, knowing that we had that on board, we continued to function for that hour. We did nothing differently. We ran a couple of ACs. Now we have a higher end, like we did a pretty robust system, but anything is better than nothing is my motto now, and I will not have lithium batteries on board. So with all that being said, hopefully you are safe from the storm if you were in its way, and hopefully this helps you in the future. If it does, please do us a favor, consider subscribing and joining our family. We would love to have you. Until next time, Mom, we're okay. Bye, Mom.